You heard Hillary Clinton alluding to her 2008 concession speech there, but this time she was declaring herself her party's presumptive nominee. Nancy Cortez was at Clinton's rally in Brooklyn. Bob Schieffer and I spoke with her just after Clinton finished speaking.
Well, first of all, Elaine, I thought it was so interesting that you could sort of plainly see the relief on her face as she came out and greeted the crowd and sort of took an extended victory lap, waving and smiling. Almost looked like she got teared up at a couple of points and really just threw her arms up like this a couple of times as if to say, can you believe that I finally did it after getting so close and failing 8 years ago. Beyond that, the content of her speech, she talked a lot about making history, saying a couple of times, I am the first female presumptive nominee of a major party. And even though everyone in this crowd knows that, they went wild each time. And she really presented herself as sort of the inheritor of generations of women here in America who have fought for equal rights and made a moment like this possible. She was very magnanimous when it came to Senator Sanders. She praised the race that he had won. She talked about everything that he had added to this campaign and to the country with the issues that he had brought up. Clearly trying to win over his supporters, but trying to win over Senator Sanders himself, because we know that there's a lot of work to be done on that front. And finally, when it came to Donald Trump, I agree with everything that Bob Schieffer was saying. The reason that she kept her tone so modulated in this speech was because she was trying to create a direct contrast between herself and the bombastic Donald Trump, talking about the fact that she wants to build bridges, he wants to build walls. She wants to build people up, he wants to tear them down. He wants to keep people apart, he wants to drive wedges, while she wants to make America a more inclusive place. And so I think that what you heard from her today, similar to what you heard from her in her foreign policy speech last week, was Hillary Clinton trying to make the case, I'm the adult here, I'm steady, you know what you're getting with me. With Donald Trump, it's anybody's guess.
You know, one of the things that she said in attacking Donald Trump, she said he has abused, Nancy, she used that verb, he has abused his primary opponents, attacked reporters for asking questions. She said he wants to win by stoking fear and rubbing salt in wounds. So that contrast that you're talking about there was very evident in the language that she used to describe how she perceives his actions. And then by contrast, what she talked about was wanting to help young people and lift up young people. She said, you know, to be great, we can't be small. We have to be as big as the values that define America. We are a big-hearted, fair-minded country. Nancy, I'm just curious, do we know anything about the backstory regarding those remarks? Was this her usual team of speechwriters or folks who help her craft her remarks normally? Because you're right, everything from the entrance, the stagecraft, felt different this time at this appearance.
I think what you're sensing, Elaine, is the difference between the tension that existed for Hillary Clinton over the past 2 months when she was trying both to focus on Donald Trump, but also not to make it seem as if she was blowing off her primary opponent, Bernie Sanders, and the many primaries that she still had to run, which could make her speeches sometimes seem like a bit of a mishmash. She now has one clear opponent and one clear mission, and that is to take the fight to Donald Trump. And so now her speeches have one clear theme running throughout them. And tonight she didn't mince words. She said he's called women a pig. He has abused, as you put it, not just his opponents, but their families. I think the Clinton campaign is worried that the public will get a little numb to some of the things that Donald Trump has said, some of the more outlandish or offensive things, that they will have heard it so many times by the time voters go to the polls on Election Day, you know, that it will have sort of lost its shock value. And so they're working very hard to, you know, have her say in these speeches, remind people of the things that he has said. And in a way, it's almost more shocking coming out of Hillary Clinton's mouth than it is when it comes out of Donald Trump's mouth. You know, when she sort of reminds voters, as she did again in that foreign policy speech last week, of Donald Trump praising Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un, and noting that they are the only foreign leaders who have really embraced him. They feel in the Clinton camp that they have to keep reminding people of some of the more unusual, unorthodox, offensive things that Donald Trump has said, so people don't get immune to it.
You know, Nancy, I was thinking, and I was listening tonight, sometimes campaigns are about bumper stickers when you come right down to it. And I was thinking, if I were going to make a bumper sticker to kind of sum up what she said tonight, it would have 3 words: bridges, not walls. And I think when you can sum up something in 3 words, that's a pretty successful speech. And to me, that was the line that jumped out at me tonight. You know, we'll see what happens, but
I agree with you. I completely agree with you, Bob. And this is a campaign that struggled for many months to figure out exactly what that breakthrough message was, beyond just, I got so close 8 years ago, give me a chance again. This time I've got even more experience. They knew that they needed to have that uplifting message and that very clear message. Something that has really hampered Hillary Clinton is that she tries to avoid over-promising. She's kind of a policy wonk, and it just doesn't feel natural to her to go through a whole laundry list of promises like many politicians do, and I won't say she never does it, but she avoids trying to make big, huge, sweeping, grand promises that she knows that she can't keep. The problem is that those big, sweeping, grand promises make for great speeches. They make for uplifting messages that get people really fired up. Just ask any Bernie Sanders supporter. So she has really struggled with, how do I inspire people when what I'm really advocating in many cases is incremental change. So she has hit on this theme of bringing people together, not pulling them apart. Stronger together, as her campaign slogan now says. And it doesn't hurt that that creates a direct contrast between herself and Donald Trump. In cases, in situations like immigration or Muslims who want to come to this country, situations where she says that he is trying to tear people apart.
One of the other notable moments in the speech, Bob, I thought, was when she talked about her mother being born on the day that Congress passed the 19th Amendment to the Constitution, which gave women the right to vote. She said, I really wish my mother could be here tonight. I wish she could see her daughter become the Democratic nominee. I just wonder, Bob, with all of your years of experience, what are your own sort of personal thoughts at this moment in history?
Well, I mean, number one, nobody ever went wrong mentioning Mama. You know, I mean, that's always a good thing to work in somewhere or the other. And I thought that was, I didn't know that was the day her mother was born, and I thought it was a very kind of a sweet moment in the campaign.
And just your own personal reflections, Bob. Just setting aside the politics, but at this moment in U.S. history, this is a notable moment.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, my first consciousness of politics, as it were, was 1948. You know, when Truey was running against Dewey. And the big news in our town was that Lyndon Johnson, who was running for the U.S. Senate, was coming to the vacant lot where we played baseball. And the reason it was such a big deal was he was coming in a helicopter, and we'd never seen a helicopter. So we all went down to see this helicopter. I mean, I remember that day, like it was yesterday. Yeah. I can't remember any of the campaign commercials from the last campaign. I don't want to remember them. I want to wash them off. But they had nothing to do with what happened after. But when you think about where we had come from that day to where we are here, whether you like Hillary or Clinton or don't like her or whatever, this is a moment. This is a moment. This is something important in the history of this country, that that this country has nominated for the first time a woman. And I mean, if you'd have suggested that in 1948, I think people would have said, "Oh no, that could never happen," but it did, and
And I have to agree with Bob about the speech, and I generally try to agree with Bob about everything. But
it's a good policy.
I think that this is the best speech I've heard her give since she dropped out of the 2008 race. There are a couple stylistic things that stood out to me. At the beginning of this campaign, she was criticized a lot because she used the word I and me in so many of her speeches. And here you heard we, and that was something that Sanders did effectively. He made it a movement about the people and less about him as a person. One other thing I found very fascinating, and I would love to know the strategy behind this, is you heard Bernie Sanders' name 2-3 times, you heard Donald Trump's name, I don't know, 10 times. I don't think we heard Barack Obama's name once in this speech. And given his popularity with Democrats and given his general popularity right now with American voters, I thought that was a little bit curious. I would have expected more of a acknowledgement of the president and his achievements. So I'm a little bit curious about the strategy behind that. But overall, I thought that was a really good speech.
She did implicitly mention him when she talked about losing.
That's right. I know Nancy Cortez has to go. Nancy, before we let you go, what is next now for Hillary Clinton on her schedule?
Well, curiously, Elaine, she doesn't have anything in her public schedule over the next few days. She's obviously going to be taking a little downtime after spending basically 2 weeks in California campaigning there, planning strategy for the general election. And then on Monday, she hits the road. She is going to 2 key likely battleground states, Ohio and Pennsylvania, wasting no time making the point that this general election is on. And it is a pretty stark contrast to Donald Trump, who, after he was named the presumptive nominee, ended up spending a great deal of his time, curiously, in California, a state that really wasn't of a great deal of consequence to him in the primary campaign because he was already the presumptive nominee and ostensibly will not be going for the Republican most likely in the general election. So the Clinton campaign is showing that they have their strategy nailed down and that she's not going to waste a lot of time before hitting the trail once again in a general election mode.
All right, Nancy Cortez on the campaign trail in Brooklyn, New York. Nancy, thank you so much.